The family WhatsApp group was usually memes, good morning prayers, and the occasional argument about who didn't show up to Grandma's birthday. That day it turned into a courtroom. My phone buzzed while I was still in my white uniform, shoes kicked off, rice on the stove, my brain halfway between exhaustion and dinner. I glanced down and saw Auntie Lydia had sent a voice note, 2 minutes long. That was already suspicious. Auntie Lydia didn't send voice notes unless she was about to perform. I pressed play. Her voice came through sweet and wounded, the way people talk when they want everyone to hear pain but also want applause. Family, I don't like bringing things here, she began, drawing it out, but some people are taking kindness for weakness. I lent her $350, and now she's acting like she doesn't know. I've been quiet, but I'm tired. She's been after my money for a while. A few seconds of silence. Then she added the part that made my stomach flip. I'm only saying this so nobody comes and says I didn't warn you. You all know how she is. My thumb froze on the screen. How I am? In my own kitchen, I suddenly felt like I was standing barefoot in the middle of the street. Messages started pouring in immediately. Uncle James typed first. Is this true? Cousin Tasha followed with a simple, wow. Auntie Beatrice added fuel. Sharon, talk. My mum didn't type in the group. She sent me a private message instead. What did you do? Tell me the truth. I stared at her message so long my screen dimmed. Because the truth was simple, and that was the problem. I hadn't borrowed anything from Auntie Lydia. Not $350. Not $3.50. Nothing. But in families like mine, truth wasn't always what mattered first. What mattered first was who spoke loudest. I typed back to my mum with shaking fingers. I didn't ask her for money. I didn't borrow anything. Before I could say more, Auntie Lydia sent another voice note to the group. Shorter this time. Sharper. I'm not here to argue. I'm just telling you people. She can deny, but the bank statement will talk. My hand went cold. Because if she was saying bank statement, she believed she had something she could twist into a story. And the family was already leaning toward believing her. I swallowed hard and whispered to myself, okay, let the bank statement talk then. Then my mum called. And the first thing she said wasn't, are you okay? It was, Sharon, don't disgrace me. That was when the hurt hit like a slap. I turned the stove off, sat on the edge of my sofa, and realized this wasn't just about money. This was about my name. And Auntie Lydia had just dragged it into the middle of the family like a rug she planned to beat. By Sunday, the story had legs. Not just legs, wings. I walked into my mum's house for lunch, and the air felt heavier than the pot of stew on the stove. My cousin's eyes slid away from mine like I was contagious. My aunties were suddenly very interested in setting plates and arranging napkins. Uncle James sat in his usual spot, remote control in hand, but the TV was off. That was how I knew I was walking into a meeting, not a meal. Auntie Lydia arrived 5 minutes after me. She came in overdressed, cream blazer, gold bangles, lipstick that matched her confidence. She hugged my mum like she was the victim and kissed her teeth softly when she saw me, as if my face offended her. Ah, Sharon, she said with fake warmth. You came. I didn't answer. I didn't trust my voice. Saturday. Food was served. But nobody ate properly. The plates were full and the room was starving for drama. Then Uncle James cleared his throat. So, he said, looking at me like he didn't know me. Your aunt said you borrowed money. My heart thudded. I forced my voice steady. I didn't. Auntie Lydia sighed loudly. See, this is what I'm saying. Shame is chasing her and she's still denying. My mum rubbed her temple. Sharon, she said quietly, why would Lydia lie? I stared at my mum. That question burned because it carried an assumption. My auntie was more believable than me. I wanted to scream. Instead, I spoke slowly. I don't know why she's doing this, but I didn't borrow money from her. Auntie Lydia leaned forward, voice low and poisonous sweet. Okay, so if you didn't borrow, explain why I have evidence of sending you $350. Uncle James nodded as if that settled it. Cousin Tasha finally spoke, eyes wide like she was enjoying a show. I heard it wasn't even just 350. I heard she asked for more too. My stomach dropped. I turned to Tasha. Who told you that? She hesitated, then shrugged. Auntie Lydia said it. Auntie Lydia's lips curved like she'd just scored a point. There's no smoke without fire, she said, shaking her head. This girl has been watching me, watching my pocket. The room hummed with quiet judgment. I looked around and realized something ugly. Nobody was asking Auntie Lydia to prove anything. They were asking me to prove I wasn't guilty. Uncle James pointed his fork at me like a gavel. If you're innocent, he said, show your bank statement. There it was. The trap. Because statements could be misunderstood. Cropped screenshots could be manipulated. People who wanted to believe the worst could twist anything. But I was tired of defending myself with emotion. I sat up straighter and nodded. Okay, I said. I'll show it. Properly. Not screenshots. Not talk. Auntie Lydia smiled like she'd already won. Good, she said. Because I have my proof too. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't just accusing me. She was setting me up for a public humiliation, one she'd rehearsed. The next day, the family group exploded again. Auntie Lydia posted a long message this time, like she'd typed it with both anger and enjoyment. I've been thinking, she wrote. I didn't want to say everything, but since she's denying, I will. She didn't just ask me for $350. She called me crying. She said she was desperate. She promised she would pay back after payday. She even asked me to keep it quiet. I stayed at my screen. My hands shook, not because I was scared, because I was furious. I hadn't called her crying. I hadn't called her desperate. I hadn't called her at all. The lies were getting bigger, which meant one thing. She needed the story to sound dramatic enough to drown out the truth. I typed one sentence into the group. When exactly did I call you crying and ask you for money? There was a pause. Then she replied almost immediately. Tuesday night. Around 9. Too quick. Too confident. My brain clicked. Tuesday at 9 in the evening I'd been on shift. My colleague had even taken a picture of me holding a birthday cupcake because it was someone's farewell. My pulse steadied. For the first time since this started, I felt something other than panic. I felt clarity. I typed again. I was at work Tuesday at 9. On shift. Auntie Lydia replied with a laughing emoji. So, people can still call from work. My jaw clenched. She wasn't even trying to be accurate. She was trying to be loud. My mum called me again that night. Sharon, she said, voice tired. Just settle it. If you received money, pay her and let it rest. That suggestion hurt more than the accusation, because it meant even if you're innocent, sacrifice your money for peace. And Auntie Lydia knew that. She knew families sometimes value peace more than truth. I swallowed and said, no, I'm not paying for a lie. Silence. Then my mum sighed. So what will you do? I looked at my banking app open on my screen. I'll do what she said, I replied. I'll let the bank statement speak. And I meant it, because if I had learned anything in life, it was this. When people are committed to misunderstanding you, talking becomes useless. You need evidence so clear it embarrasses the lie. I didn't send anything to the group yet. I didn't want to play screenshot games. Instead, I did what I always did when my life needed order. I gathered facts. I opened my banking app and pulled up my transactions. There it was. $350 incoming. My breath caught because for a second, my brain feared the worst. If $350 had entered my account and I hadn't noticed, Auntie Lydia could twist that into I paid her. I clicked the transaction. Sender, M. Adebayo. Reference, uniform/shoes. Date, Thursday. My chest loosened. M. Adebayo was my grandmother. Or rather, the account tied to her funds. I stared at it again. Slow. So yes, $350 came in. But it wasn't from Auntie Lydia. It was from Grandma. And Auntie Lydia was claiming it as hers. I sat back, heart pounding, not from fear now, but from the weight of what that meant. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a theft of credit. And if Auntie Lydia was bold enough to claim Grandma's money as hers, then my phone rang. Grandma. I answered quickly. Hello, Grandma. Her voice was soft, hesitant. My child, Lydia said you people are fighting about money. My throat tightened. Grandma, I asked gently, did you send me $350? There was a pause. Yes, she said, but I sent it to Lydia first. She said she will pass it to you, because I didn't have your account. My blood cooled. How much did you send her? I asked. Grandma exhaled like she'd been holding something heavy. More than that, she admitted. My stomach dropped. More than $350. Yes, she whispered. I gave her because you needed things, and she told me she sent everything. I closed my eyes. Auntie Lydia didn't just accuse me. She accused me using money that wasn't even hers, and kept the rest like it didn't belong to anyone. I opened my eyes slowly, staring at the transaction on my screen. Then I asked Grandma the question that changed the whole story. Grandma, how many times have you sent her money for me? Grandma's voice turned even quieter. Many times, my child. My grip tightened on the phone, because suddenly, this wasn't about $350. This was about a pattern. And Auntie Lydia had just stepped into the wrong fight because I wasn't going to argue with her. I was going to audit her. The next morning, Auntie Lydia posted her evidence. A cropped screenshot. Blurry. No bank logo. No visible sender or receiver details. Just a line that said minus $350. And her caption read, since she wants to act stubborn. Here. Bank statement. The truth is stubborn too. The family reacted like she dropped a bomb. Cousin Tasha commented, wow. Uncle James typed, Sharon, pay her. Auntie Beatrice added, this is shameful. I stayed at it, calm now, because once you see the truth, panic disappears. I noticed the date was cut off. The time was cut off. The account names were hidden. Anyone could screenshot a debit and claim it went to anyone. I typed one sentence in the group. A debit from your account doesn't show it entered mine. Show the full transfer details, recipient name, and reference. Auntie Lydia replied fast. You think you're smart. Don't worry. Sunday we will settle it. Sunday. She wanted a live audience again. I didn't respond. I started preparing. I called my bank and asked how to generate a full statement with sender details visible. Then I texted Grandma, please write down the dates and amounts you sent Auntie Lydia for me. Everything you remember. Grandma responded with one line. Come and see my notebook. My mouth went dry, because Grandma kept records the way old women keep memories, quiet, precise, undeniable. If Auntie Lydia had been skimming money meant for me, Grandma's notebook would expose it like sunlight. And if I could match Grandma's notes to my account history, then Auntie Lydia wouldn't just look like a liar. She would look like someone who had been stealing from her own mother while destroying my name to hide it. I stared at the family group one last time. Auntie Lydia was still typing, still performing, still gathering believers. Let her. Because I wasn't coming with talk anymore. I was coming with receipts. And the bank statement. It was about to speak in a language nobody could interrupt. I went to see Grandma the next morning. She didn't know the house was now a crime scene. She welcomed me the way she always did. Slow steps, warm smile, hands that smelled faintly of menthol and soap. She sat me down and reached under her cushion like she was pulling out something precious. A small, brown notebook. I write things so I don't forget, she said quietly. She opened it. Dates, amounts, notes. For Sharon, school shoes. For Sharon, food. For Sharon, Emergency. All paid to one name. Lydia. My chest tightened. How much did you give her in total? I asked gently. Grandma frowned, counting with her finger. More than 1,000, she said. Why? I swallowed. Because only $350 had ever reached me, and Auntie Lydia was telling the world I was after her money. I closed the notebook slowly, already knowing this story had just crossed a dangerous line. Grandma looked at me and asked, She didn't give you everything? I didn't answer Grandma right away. I didn't want to shock her. Instead, I asked for the dates again and went home to sit with my bank statements spread out like puzzle pieces. Every transfer that came into my account was there, clean, time-stamped, referenced. The math was brutal. Grandma sent Lydia over $1,000. I received only $350. The rest had vanished into silence. I leaned back in my chair and felt something settle inside me. Not rage, not panic. Resolve. Because this wasn't gossip anymore. This was evidence. And if Lydia was bold enough to steal quietly, she was bold enough to destroy my reputation loudly to cover it. My phone buzzed. Auntie Lydia calling. I let it ring. Then she sent a message. Stop confusing my mother. This thing is small. Small. I typed back one line. Then you won't mind explaining the missing money. 3 dots appeared. Then it disappeared. Then my phone rang again. This time I answered. Her voice came sharp and low. If you value peace, don't do this. I'm warning you, Lydia said. Families don't need police and banks inside their business. I'm not involving anyone, I replied calmly. I'm just asking where Grandma's money went. Silence. Then she laughed. A short, humorless sound. You think people will believe you over me? She said. You think statements mean more than reputation. That's when I understood her confidence. She wasn't relying on proof. She was relying on history, on the fact that she had always been seen as generous, respectable, dependable. And I had always been seen as quiet. I said nothing. She filled the silence with venom. Just apologize. Say you misunderstood. I'll let it go. Let it go. I hung up. And for the first time since this began, I smiled, not because it was funny, but because I knew something she didn't. Reputation collapses instantly when facts arrive. I decided the bank would speak before I did. I requested a full official bank statement, not screenshots, not cropped images. The kind with logos, account numbers masked, sender details, references. Then I booked a small family meeting. Not a shouting match. Not a WhatsApp war. A table. Witnesses. One version of the truth. Auntie Lydia arrived early. She looked confident, manicured nails, printed papers in a folder like a lawyer preparing a case. I hope you're ready to be embarrassed, she said softly. I nodded. So are you? I replied. She smiled, but something flickered in her eyes. She pulled out her own printed statement and placed it on the table first. She pointed dramatically. There. $350. Sent. Everyone leaned in. Murmurs filled the room. Uncle James nodded. My mum looked down. I waited. Then I asked one question. Where does it show my name? Lydia blinked. It left my account, she snapped. That's enough. No, I said calmly. It isn't. I slid my own document across the table. This is what entering my account looks like. Logos. Send a name. Reference. Silence. Lydia scoffed. Anyone can edit papers. I tapped my phone. Then let's open the app live. Her lips pressed into a thin line. I logged into my banking app in front of everyone. I refreshed the screen. There it was. Incoming, $350. Sender, M. Adebayo. Reference, uniform/shoes. No Lydia. No confusion. My mum leaned forward. Lydia, why is this from Grandma? Lydia opened her mouth, closed it, then said, I sent Grandma's money on her behalf. A bold pivot. I nodded slowly. Then where is the rest? The room shifted. Grandma, who had been silent, spoke softly. I gave her more, she said. Everyone froze. Lydia turned to Grandma and hissed, Why are you saying this now? Grandma straightened in her chair. Because I don't like lies, she said. And I don't like shame put on my child. She opened her notebook. Dates. Amounts. Notes. The numbers spoke louder than any argument. Cousin Tasha gasped. Wait, she did this to me too. Another cousin nodded slowly. So that's why my money never came. Lydia stood abruptly. This is madness. Uncle James blocked her path. Sit, he said. She did. Lydia's confidence collapsed into fury. Phones came out. Old messages were checked. Transfers compared. What had felt like isolated incidents snapped into a pattern. Lydia hadn't just taken from Grandma. She had skimmed quietly, then used generosity as a shield. And when confronted, she burned someone else. Me. I felt my hands tremble, not from fear, but from the weight of vindication. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't insulted her. I had let math do the talking. Lydia suddenly started crying. Tears streamed down her face. I was under pressure, she sobbed. I meant to return it. No apology. No accountability. Just circumstances. I looked at her and spoke for the first time in a while. You didn't just take money, I said. You tried to ruin my name. The room went quiet. She looked up at me with hatred. You think this makes you better, she snapped. No, I replied. It makes the truth visible. Uncle James asked the question everyone was thinking. Why, he said slowly, did you accuse her instead of explaining? Lydia opened her mouth, then said the quiet part out loud. Because if I spoke first, nobody would question me. Silence crashed down. My mum covered her mouth. I felt something heavy lift from my chest. Uncle James stood up and said, You'll repay every cent. Lydia tried to argue. Nobody listened. Repayment was arranged. Grandma squeezed my hand. I'm sorry they doubted you, she whispered. I nodded, unable to speak. Lydia turned to me and said, You've embarrassed me. I met her eyes. You embarrassed yourself, I said quietly. I only stopped you from doing it again. She left without another word, blocked half the family by nightfall. The family group went silent. The next day, my mum came over. She didn't bring advice. She brought humility. I should have defended you, she said. I hugged her. Healing began there. Then a message appeared in the family group. Lydia had sent a voice note. I lied, she said. Sharon didn't borrow money from me. No excuses this time. Just facts. The group reacted differently now. People apologized. Some stayed quiet. Trust rearranged itself. And I realized something powerful. The loudest voice isn't the truest one. Grandma called me that night. Thank you, she said. I can sleep now. So could I. But Lydia wasn't done. She posted a vague status online. People will destroy you and call it truth. This time, nobody defended her. The post disappeared within hours. Life slowly returned to normal. My name was clean. My heart lighter. And then someone asked me to tell the story. I didn't speak for revenge. I spoke for clarity, because silence protects lies. And because this lesson mattered. She said I was after her $350, but the bank statement spoke louder than her mouth ever could, and it told the truth she tried to bury. She didn't lose money. She lost control of the lie, and that was enough. Weeks passed and the family learned to move differently. Conversations became more careful. People asked more questions before believing accusations. Auntie Lydia stopped coming to family gatherings. Nobody chased her. I went back to Wyke, back to my quiet life. But something had changed inside me. I wasn't scared of being loud anymore. I learned that defending yourself doesn't mean you're aggressive. Sometimes it just means you refuse to disappear. Grandma started sending money directly to my account after that. She said she should have done it from the beginning. I told her it wasn't her fault. but she insisted on keeping better records anyway. My mom and I grew closer. She apologized more than once, and each time I saw the weight she carried. The weight of believing the wrong person. The weight of almost losing her daughter over someone else's lie. "I should have known you better," she said one evening over tea. "You do now," I replied. And that was enough. Uncle James became more cautious too. He stopped making quick judgments. He started asking for proof before taking sides. Change came slow, but it came. Cousin Tasha messaged me privately one night. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you," she typed. "I should have asked questions." I forgave her, because I understood. In families, we're taught to respect elders, to trust authority, to keep peace. But sometimes keeping peace means sacrificing truth. And I refuse to be that sacrifice. The notebook grandma kept became a symbol in our family. Other relatives started keeping their own records. People became more careful with money, more honest about transactions. Auntie Lydia tried to rebuild her reputation quietly. She started volunteering at church, posting Bible verses online, acting like the whole situation never happened. But people remembered. They didn't forget easily. Some family members felt sorry for her. They said she made a mistake and deserved a second chance. I didn't argue with them. I just stayed away. Because forgiveness doesn't mean you have to return to the place that hurt you. My younger cousins reached out to me after everything settled. They said they learned something important. They learned to keep evidence, to trust their own truth, to speak up even when the room is loud. One of them told me, "You showed us that being quiet doesn't mean being weak." That made everything worth it, because the story wasn't just about money anymore. It was about teaching the next generation to stand firm. Months later, Auntie Lydia sent me a message. Just one line. "I'm sorry." I read it. I didn't reply. Because some apologies come too late, not because you can't forgive, but because the relationship is already gone. I showed Grandma the message. She nodded slowly. "Some people only say sorry when they lose everything," she said. "Real sorry comes before that." I agreed. Real accountability doesn't wait for consequences. It comes from genuine remorse. And I never saw that from Auntie Lydia. I only saw someone angry that she got caught. Life taught me something valuable through this mess. Your reputation isn't built by how many people believe you in the moment. It's built by the truth you can prove when it matters most. The bank statement didn't just clear my name. It became my shield. And I learned to carry evidence not because I expected betrayal, but because I respected my own peace enough to protect it. I started keeping better financial records after that. Every transaction documented, every agreement written down. Every conversation about money followed up with a text summary. People thought I was paranoid. I called it prepared. Because I realized something important. When you're telling the truth, evidence is your best friend. But when you're lying, evidence is the enemy. Auntie Lydia had been gambling that I wouldn't have proof. She thought my word against hers would fail. She forgot that banks don't lie. Numbers don't perform. Timestamps don't care about reputations. The family WhatsApp group became quieter after the incident. People stopped making wild accusations. They stopped spreading rumors without checking facts first. One situation changed the entire culture. Grandma told me one afternoon, "You did more than defend yourself. You taught this family how to treat each other better." I hadn't thought about it that way. But she was right. Sometimes standing up for yourself creates a better environment for everyone else too. My mum started defending me more in family spaces. If someone made a careless comment, she corrected them. If someone tried to blame me without proof, she asked questions. She became the mother I needed from the beginning, and I learned to appreciate that growth. Because people aren't perfect. They make mistakes. What matters is whether they learn and change. My mum did both. I thought about Auntie Lydia sometimes. Not with anger, but with sadness. Because she could have just told the truth from the start. She could have said, "I'm struggling, I used some of the money." People would have been disappointed, but they would have understood eventually. Instead, she chose to destroy my name to protect her image. And in the end, she lost both. That's the thing about lies. They don't just fail. They collapse everything around them. I learned to value my peace more than people's opinions. I learned that not everyone deserves access to my life. I learned that family doesn't mean you accept disrespect. The bank statement spoke for me that day. But the real power wasn't in the paper. It was in my refusal to stay silent while someone lied about me. Some people called me petty for bringing evidence. They said I should have just forgiven and moved on. But I realized something important. Moving on doesn't mean letting people rewrite history. It means protecting your truth while you walk away. A year later, I was stronger, wiser, more careful about who I trusted. I still showed up to family events, but I didn't chase approval anymore. I didn't need everyone to like me. I just needed to respect myself. Grandma's health started failing slowly. Old age catching up. I spent more time with her, listening to her stories, learning her wisdom. She told me once, the truth is like water. You can try to cover it, but it always finds a way out. She was right. The truth about Auntie Lydia's theft came out not because I forced it, but because I simply stopped hiding from it. And when Grandma finally passed, surrounded by family who loved her, I held her hand and whispered, "Thank you for believing me." She squeezed back weakly and smiled. That was enough. At her funeral, Auntie Lydia showed up. She stood at the back, didn't come close, didn't speak to anyone. I saw her wipe tears, and for a moment, I wondered if she regretted everything. But regret without change means nothing. So I focused on honoring Grandma instead, the woman who taught me that keeping records wasn't about suspicion, it was about respect for truth. In the end, the family learned a painful lesson. And I learned that my voice mattered, my truth mattered, and no amount of noise could drown out a bank statement that spoke louder than lies ever could.